Hello, everyone. Welcome to our sixth episode of the PASSCast. We're finally back from our little hiatus. Daniel, how are you?
I'm not too bad, Martin. I've been having a pretty decent week so far this week.
Yeah,
Haven't had any mental breakdowns this week, or my friends haven't, which is always good.
yeah.
Um, been thinking about getting my hair cut, but haven't really done much with that.
Mm,
And also during the break, we got a new couch, so
perfect. We've had a good
well,
little runner.
yeah, all fun stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I too feel pretty good at the moment. Most of my assessments done. So yeah, we're doing pretty well. I guess we should start off by, I
I was
guess.
going to say you had something pretty significant happen today, didn't you? But
Uh,
we'll talk more about it soon. But would you like to
yeah, we
foreshadow that?
Yeah, well, I don't know how I could actually foreshadow it without foreshadowing it, other than without saying it, other than the fact that it's week 12. So it's a pretty hopefully obvious little thing there. But yeah, no, we'll talk about that in a bit. But I guess we should probably start by saying why we haven't been doing this for a few weeks. So
So I know we did release that very small little video that
mm,
we randomly put together one afternoon because we could about what had been happening, but yeah, it's been a very long, uh, mentally exhausting trimester for me at least, and I think you can emulate the same. Because I saw your group chats with your UQ group. Not to throw the UQ group under the bus, but they sounded like a lot of work.
yeah, it was just the nature of the course as well. It was a course that was designed to sum up the entirety of engineering, so all our, I guess, background and everything. So it was meant to train us properly to be engineers. The problem is it was meant to train us within like very short time spans. So it was a very stressful experience. But that's all done now, and that's fine. But yeah, we did have a bit of a break, I suppose, because of life. Um, but feeling good now. Happy to have Passcast back, and yeah, hopefully we'll get to have a good episode later on when Eesha's gonna join us, right,
Oh
Daniel?
yeah, yeah, it'll be terrible until Eesha joins us. It'll just be you and me. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone's really here for Eesha. We're just the filler entertainment. We're the leading act.
Yes,
Um,
this is true.
and the reason that Eesha isn't here to begin with, and not just because we wanted to say hi and catch up with you guys, she's actually running a pass session right
Yeah,
now, and she's halfway through her session. She's doing it online, and as soon as that's over, she's going to join us. So no rest for the wicked, eh?
yeah. I mean, it's been a struggle for us to actually even time this to get Eesha on because she is a very, very busy person. She does so much extracurricular stuff and she does so much with Pass. It is so difficult. So we are actually going to have a lot of fun having her on because been so difficult to even try to organize this. But we thought that a lot of you would really enjoy just Eesha, and if you haven't met her, you've been missing out. And you're really gonna enjoy this. But
You'll understand why when she joins us, because she's just so much fun, so much energy, and so happy that if we don't get you in the right mindset for
mm.
exam period, Isha definitely will.
Oh yeah,
So, what else did we get up to in the hiatus, and why we didn't really have enough time to be doing some live episodes, Martin?
um,
I believe we were.
haha.
I want to say integral since we were the first link on the video page for it, but we submitted something. Would you like to talk a bit more about it? Because honestly, I just was along for the ride. You did most of the work.
Well, I wouldn't say I did most of the work, but we did as a group. So yeah, we do have. We were also very tied over the past few weeks with a conference video that we were invited to do. So this was a conference over in America. It's a PASS conference that our lovely PASS coordinator Jackie had found. So that was a lot of fun. We submitted a proposal for that. That was accepted, and we were able to do a video that was essentially designed to showcase how Griffith runs the hybrid pass model. So, as a lot of you may know, we have the online and in-person model of pass, and we've done it really well. Like no bullshit or anything. Griffith has done such a good job in hybridizing the online transition and making
I actually want to say
Yeah.
not just Griffith. Like Griffith has
Mm.
done well. Griffith adapted, but and maybe this is me being a bit biased. I am doing a business degree and a science degree, but I think Jackie and what she's done with us as a team has been really, really big.
Yeah.
The other schools haven't quite done what Jackie has done in sciences, and I think it's the way forward at the moment. So
I'm just laughing because I've just read something that George has said, and yeah. Anyways, but yeah,
okay,
no, but yeah, that's true. Jackie has done a phenomenal job since that week 4 notice that we got last year, where it was pretty much, we're jumping online like that. Let's go. It's been absolutely perfect. She's done so well to help us and support us, and that's pretty much part of the reason why we've done so well. We've been able to make this conference video to showcase what we've done because our leaders have been phenomenal. I can't really speak to the rest of Griffith PASS, but at least in Griffith Sciences, we have done such a good job as a collective, and I hope that the student experience was maintained because of that.
well, I was just going to say, and that's not just coming from us. Our
Mm.
students have been telling us how great it is to have the option of online and face to face. I know a lot of the students, some of them might have actually tuned in because I've been pushing them all week to come and join us for this last one.
Mm-hmm.
But they've had online sessions with me, but they've also had in person sessions, and I've really, really enjoyed actually getting to see my students again.
Mm.
And I'm a little sad about something else, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Um, what else? What else have we been up to, Martin?
Well, I think I'll just share. So I've just shared
Yeah,
in chat
I
now.
was going to say, if you want to share that video for anyone that wants to watch it.
Yeah. So anyone that does want to have a look at what we've come up with, it wasn't Daniel and I's creation. I should just point that out. This was
There was a team
it
creation,
was a team
but
creation. So this was.
Dan and Hillary did a lot of work. Jackie did a lot of work.
Mm.
We did a little bit of work. Uh,
And we did. It is quite lovely because at the end of the video you will see a little. I'm quite proud of it. It's quite a little snapshot of different leaders talking about what they liked about in-person and online pass. So you get to see a few of your favorite leaders show up there. So that was pretty much a summary of our nice little project that we've enjoyed working on there. So we hope you guys enjoy it too. That's currently sitting at the top of a nice conference video set that they're doing online for the American conference. So yeah, that's pretty much that side of it done. Yeah.
um, what else happened this week, Martin? Something about a bit of a closing for you?
So George has just sent me
George called it, by the
yeah,
way.
George did call it, and he's just sent me a photo, which I remember him sending to me because I had a beer with him virtually that night as well. But yeah, so today was actually my last ever lecture as a student. So that was a nice little moment for me. I'm officially done with attending lectures, attending tutorials, anything of that sort. So that part of my degree is now completed.
And you're graduating in July, correct?
I will be graduating in July, and I will be leaving, and I will not see anyone ever again. That's
Yep.
it.
Well, he'll just go crawl up into a research bin somewhere, and we'll never see him or hear from him again. Because I'm pretty sure in our time off, you received an email accepting you for something. What was it? There was two things actually. I think one of
Oh,
them was a small donation
oh dear.
towards your academic funding. Do
Oh
you want to
dear.
talk about that at all?
I mean, not particularly. Everyone knows I don't really like talking about myself, so I don't really want to talk about that. But I did receive, yes, a scholarship um, just as part of my achievements as an undergrad. That's all I really want to say on it because I don't really want to talk about it. The other thing, though, I did get accepted to do my PhD. That's now just pending the scholarship registration, scholarship ranking, but that's also been accepted, so I will start that. But that is not really the big news I care about. The main thing for me that I'm happy about is that I will actually continue with the PASS program as a PASS leader. Um, so that's actually what really excites me, is that I'll get to do Calc 1 next trimester. And I get to keep working with an amazing team of leaders and keep working with amazing students that I really do enjoy. So that's the big news for me that I'm more excited about, to be honest.
Well, yeah, you're inheriting my cohort of
Mm.
linear algebra students who I think a few of might be there in the chat. If you are, you can say hi. I won't see it, but
I'll let you know.
you guys have been. I've told you guys that have attended my sessions this week, but this week, like I said, this trimester in general was mentally exhausting, and having such great students to come and see every Monday, Tuesday, Friday was so helpful to me, not just for my mental state, but just it got me excited to come into uni and be able to help facilitate their learning and go over some things with them, maybe insult them a little too much sometimes, but we won't get into that joke because
I mean,
I might get in trouble for that one. But
we could go through it. I mean, you've said worse things on this platform, to be honest. So I'm more than happy to put you on the spot again.
okay, look, two of my best friends in the world are Mackenzie and Ronan, who some of you may or may not have heard us talk about on this show before. And they are in a relationship together, and sometimes they may be very bad at math because 6 times -2 is not 6. 6 times 3 is not 12.
These are real examples, by the
These are
way.
real examples, by the way. They submitted working and assessment with this on there. So when one of my past students happened to make the same mistake, instinctively my brain went to respond to the same way I respond to Martin and Mackenzie with.
Ronan and Mackenzie.
Who did I say?
Martin and Mackenzie.
Okay, sorry, Ronan and Mackenzie. Though this does actually apply to Martin as well. But the response I give them when they screw up simple math is because they are in a relationship together, and at some point they probably will want to do this. But I have asked them respectfully to please not reproduce. That may have slipped out in a PASS session to a student. So luckily, the student in turn knew that I was joking, and we all had a good laugh about it. But yeah, don't tell your students not to reproduce, Martin. It's
This is good advice. Any PASS leaders out there who don't
or,
already
or
know this,
potentially future PASS leaders.
yeah, apparently that's not the right thing to say to your students. Who would have known?
Also, saying live
Mm.
on a podcast to your boss, and they've not had any context to this beforehand, also not the best idea ever.
No. Yeah, you might have just lost your job.
Yeah. So, Jackie, I'm sure we'll have a conversation later tonight about my employment status.
Likely. I do just want to point out that Drew and another of your students have written in the chat. Drew said he has to make it through linear algebra first before he can actually get to Calc 1.
Fair enough. Drew, I think you'll be fine. I'm going to throw you under the bus here, Drew, and just say in advance that nobody is ever going to top his attendance for this trimester. He was my most attended student. I think it's 36 sessions, which isn't all of them, but pretty damn close. And he's definitely being rewarded at our exam buster next week for that. So thank you, Drew, for coming along. Who was the other student you said was there?
I don't know. It was the username's
Okay.
just unrecognizable username. If you want to out yourself between 4 and 25 characters, feel free to do so.
Well, whomever that is, they're probably quite a good student.
Okay. Starts with a K. Okay.
Okay.
I've cracked the case.
I don't think it's who you think it is.
Okay. Well, that
Anyway,
that works. So while we are talking about dedicated PASS students, I think my highest attended ones, I've got 2. I'm not sure who's actually in the lead at the moment because we're still waiting on attendance from Nathan's calculus PASS, but we've got 2 students that can actually be in the running for it. So I think we've got 36 attendances is one of them. So one's 33 at the moment, the other's 37. So I've got Mackenzie on 33 and Joseph, or Joey, as we know him, on 37. So we're also cracking that bar high.
So, Drew, that's your competition for next trimester.
There we go.
Beat those guys and their attendances. I don't think anyone's going to beat my 44 sessions for a year, but for a
Yeah.
trimester. But
No, that was a serious shift. I don't think that's getting beaten at all. But
poor you, George and Selena, that had to put up with me though.
yeah. I mean, Drew said challenge accepted, so we'll see. You've got to run for your money there. But yeah, no, it's been a good trimester, and as we've said, the students are definitely what makes it worthwhile for us. And I'm sure any pass leader in the chat will be able to agree with that. That the students are what makes it rewarding. And that's what we particularly enjoy about pass.
But on that note too, I've told my linear algebra students this week, but I won't be pass leading for calculus next trimester unless you and I come up with some way of me imitating you, because I will be running pass for a class that we haven't actually run pass for before, and I'm really excited about it because it was a class that I wouldn't have been able to survive at uni without, and I highly recommend anyone that didn't do well enough in Math B to have actually done this course, and if they haven't, I think they're insane to have not. But I'm going to be pass leading for Foundation Math, and I'm so excited about it because David, the course convener, was also my lecturer at the time. I don't know if he was the course convener when I did it, but he's such an amazing guy. He actually got his PhD while he was teaching us, so that was really cool. So to get to work with Dr. Harmon, I will call him, is actually really, really cool for me because I actually said in my end of trimester survey when I had him for Foundation Math that if I went through my entire degree with David as my lecturer, I think I'd be perfectly fine learning math because he does such a great job. And now I actually get to work with him, and that kind of blows my mind that 3 years ago I was learning from him and now I'm working with him. So it's a huge thing. Like him and Tim and Pat and Yuri are the main people I've spoken to about math at university, and I've gotten to work with all of them now, and it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. And I guess those lecturers or academics are what makes it easy for us to feel like we can emulate and do or implement those things as pass leaders. So it's great that you've had positive experiences, particularly since I know that you're really into your math side of things, and it's nice to know that you have that sort of foundation. Get it? Foundation to really help you. But yes, no, it is a bit unfortunate, but we will see if we can have the Dwadden medical team, because that worked really well, and that was one of the reasons we started the PASSCast, was because last year we were online and people enjoyed Daniel and I working together. So we will see if we can carry that into an in-person session next trimester.
The Dwadical ship will sail once more.
Yes, the Dwadical ship. Speaking of
God, I hate that I said that out loud.
and I've recorded it too.
Yep.
Speaking of next trimester, how'd you go with timetable planning? Because I don't know if a lot of students have checked, but your timetable planning is actually open now.
Well, I can't ask you about yours, so I guess this is where I have to talk.
Yeah, this is yours. I don't have a timetable.
My timetabling actually worked out pretty well. I've put myself down for 3 courses. As we know, with me this trimester, I went from 4 courses to 3 courses down to 1 course.
Yes.
But I have planned out this 3 courses with the idea that I won't be enrolled for 3 courses after week 4.
Okay.
And I've given myself permission to feel that that is okay to do. I'm mostly doing all 3 to start with because I want to see what they're going to be like.
Yep.
The lectures will be online, so that's another big thing, is I need to see how the
Mm,
lectures are being delivered online to see if that's going to be an effective way for me to learn, because as we've discussed privately, but I don't think we've discussed on the PASSCast really yet, but one of the big things that I've learnt this trimester is, even though we had it all last year, but I was going through all sorts of mental issues because of
mm,
COVID and everything, but um, I don't learn well from
no.
online, whether it be online lectures, online um, video bites. It doesn't work for me. As soon as I sit down to try and do them, I don't know what goes on in my head, but it just goes, let's not pay attention to anything anymore and start wondering about really stupid things like what's for dinner. It's 8 a.m., but we're worrying about dinner.
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
get that, and a lot of students will relate to that. I'm quite similar. I if I'm not in person in a lecture and I'm on my computer, it becomes such a chore to want to, put 110% or whatever of my focus to actually doing the online thing. So, I mean, I've had it relatively easy this trimester because the courses that I have had, well, one of them has been in person, the other one has been online, but it's an entire calculation based course, so there's nothing I'm really missing out on. So, but in general, the online thing for me as well has not worked well. Um, but some students really enjoy it, and that's why we have the hybrid pass model, for example, is because the online aspect of it has been very beneficial. So there's pros and cons to everything, so we just have to be, I guess, conscious of that and try and modify how we look at it and see how we can improve to make sure that we take the most out of it.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so my planning at the moment, 3 courses. Whether I
Brilliant.
stay at 3 courses, we won't know until week 4.
Mm,
Um,
we'll figure
I'm
that out.
planning at the moment. It's working really well because Jackie and Hillary have been amazing and sent out our pass allocations already and
Mm.
showed us what times and sessions are available, and they've worked out with my timetable so far. So I'm super excited about it. Um,
Yeah, me too. I'm excited that I didn't even have to look at it. When she gave out the allocations, I just said, "Yeah, I'm free for everything." I don't have a schedule anymore. I don't have to
you,
like.
you were meant to plan mine around. You wanted to put my availability in so that the nautical ship could sail. Damn it!
Well, we'll figure that one out after. First, we need to see what happens within my course, and then we can see how to incorporate you into it. But for
Oh,
now,
yeah. Okay.
Shay also agrees that online lectures are the worst, by the way. So we do have
Oh, good.
other support there.
Good,
Um,
good. Other pass leader support is always good. It's not just
mm,
us complaining.
yeah. But no,
Um,
you do bring up a good point about the week 4 thing, and it's good for students to not feel like once they're enrolled permanently. Um, as you said, you're enrolling with the full expectation that that's going to drop. So it's beneficial, I think, that way because you can have a feel, and maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised. Maybe it'll be, everything will be easy. You're doing really well for some reason, and you can keep doing the 3 courses. Sweet. But then,
I don't know if you saw, but I nodded my head and then
yeah, I
quickly
know.
shook it because I know that that's not going to be the case, because one of them is mathematical modeling, which is a really fun course from what I can tell, but
Mm.
also not exactly the easiest one. So
I mean, yeah, but at least you've prepared for that eventuality, and that's the thing. Like, that's why we have the planning phase of um, the timetabling, is so that we can see if something's going to work and what we can do or what we feel like doing and that sort of thing. So, as you said, you'll likely drop courses in week 4, and that's perfectly okay. But at least you've set that expectation that it is fine and that it is not going to be an issue for you when you do that.
and that's the other thing too. There is a particular student. I'm not going to mention who it is because they'll know that I'm calling them out if I say so. But there's some students I know that have gone from full time to part time recently, and they're still adjusting with the idea that, is it okay that I've done this? And the biggest thing, I think anyone, and Jackie, even in I think it was our first or second PASSCast where we were talking about it,
Mm.
condoned it as a really good thing, that if you need to drop back on courses, if you need to go from a full time to a part time study load, that's okay.
Hmm.
you don't have to finish your degree as quickly as possible.
Mm. I mean,
Like,
I'm at a part-time study load now because it's the end of my degree. So I've been doing two courses just to finish. And even at part-time, at two courses, I feel like I've had so much to do. I've been in over my head, even with two courses, and that's part of the reason we had to take a break from PASSCast. I still haven't edited the video with Courtney, so that's still sitting in my files waiting to be edited, which I'll have to do as well. So clearly, there hasn't been time for it. Only doing two courses just because of everything else around.
and it's been, like I said, a mentally exhausting trimester. Um, and PASSCast, these sorts of things have, I think, I can speak for myself. I think you'd agree they've helped get us through this trimester very, very well.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no, definitely. PASSCast was a good break, and it's helped, especially having the leaders that we've had on. It's just so difficult to be in a bad mood when you have such amazing leaders on, and like when Eesha comes on, whenever her pass session finishes in a few minutes, it'll be the same. She's going to be full of positivity. You just can't not be happy.
um, but we should probably mention, what are we going to talk with Eesha about, Martin?
It's a good segue, and I'm hoping we're timing this relatively okay because at least we can maybe do an intro with it. But we could we I'm hoping that we'll segue this very nicely. Firstly, though, Shay said, "Are we all burnt out from COVID still, or are we struggling because we're later in the degree?" That is a good question. For me, at least, it's probably because I'm later in the degree. Like it's probably because I'm finishing now, and that's just been the challenge. Daniel, what do you reckon?
Um, Look, I'd say that it's still a residual effect of the effects of COVID for me because, in theory, and I say in theory because none of us actually know, if COVID was 100% under control and everything, the university would be back at face to face lectures, face to face pass, face to face workshops, face to face everything.
Mm,
Uh, but as it turns out, at the moment, they're still going with an online
mm,
blended model because we do still have the chance of going back into a lockdown or
mm,
a chance of things flaring up or just not wanting to risk having even because like my courses that I'm enrolling for are second and third year courses that don't have the first year intake of hundreds of
mm.
students. So the fact that the university is still unwilling to do lectures for 50 students is a side effect of COVID, I would think. So,
It is, and the university is going to keep this stance. They have a risk assessment matrix for COVID. And as they do with everything, of course, the university is going to keep this stance until the risk is low. And the only way the risk is low is if they have a significant part of the population vaccinated. That's the benchmark. That's what it is. Until there's not a risk where if someone gets infected that can spread and force us into an online environment, because that costs a lot of money. That transition costs so much money. So until they have that security that it's not going to blow their budget, that's going to be the stance they're going to take. And with Pass, we're probably going to keep the online hybrid model anyways because it's worked. Like it's not necessarily going to be that online's going to replace the face to face. It'll be there more to supplement it, which is good. It's a good idea. So these are the kinds of things I guess we gotta have to think of and commit to. And yeah, as Scarlett's just mentioned, the international students can't come back yet. So um, we do need to I guess, accommodate because we do still have enrollments from international students working online. So that's one way in which the university can continue to operate still.
yeah. And we could get into a whole debate about that, but I feel like us being representatives of the university right now are probably not the people to be having that discussion.
No, so
Maybe we'll reach out to the dean and see if she'd like to come on as a guest over the break and talk about her ideas for the future of the university. But
mm,
that is one thing actually I did want to mention before we did get into it with Eesha when she is ready. But we did miss a guest because of our hiatus, didn't we, Martin?
we did, and I'm sad because that would have been a very awesome guest to have had. But yes, we did miss a guest.
We missed our pass, Mum.
We missed our pass, Mum. Yes, so in week 10, which was our hiatus week, which meant we had weeks, about 4 weeks of no PASSCast, we were actually hoping to get Jackie on and just to talk about all things pass and her job and how she started and all that sort of thing. But we weren't able to do that. So that is one of the, I guess, trimester break episodes that we're looking at having. Because, yeah, no, she has a wealth of experience in supplemental instruction, or PASS as we call it. So it'd be great to pick her brain and see what goes through.
The fact that you just called it supplemental instruction threw me for a second. I'm like, what is he talking? Oh, right. That's actually what they call it, isn't it?
Yes, yes. Scarlett says you just need to come back for season 2. We will definitely do a season 2, trimester 2 at season 2. We're definitely doing that. There's no
Okay, but
plans.
here's the thing. If we do season 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have try 3, is that going to be season 3, right?
Ooh,
And then if we
yes.
have try 3 as season 3, we can't go back to season 1 again next year.
No, that'll be season 4.
But then people will be confused because they'll be like, where's season 1?
No, because it's a separate. It's not coming with the trimester. Yes, the trimesters dictate the periods, but it's not going to be.
I'm just nitpicking here.
I am aware. So,
Who's somebody else we're going to have on as a guest over the trimester break? Can you remember?
hard to forget, but ideally we would have George on, but we have to bear in mind that he's a very busy, graduated former pass leader, but it would be lovely to have him share his experiences, particularly since a lot of you are my students as well, so you do engineering. George is a graduated engineer and is working, earning big bucks. So it'd be nice to get his thoughts on how pass was for him, how pass leading was for him, and now how he's doing in his busy working life.
And maybe talking about some of the transferable skills from pass that we could maybe get any future leaders that are interested in applying for the program into hearing about, because I have it on not good authority, but I'm pretty sure the theory is that quite a few pass leaders are actually graduating this year, aren't they?
I'm pretty certain we've got a few that are graduating, so I can't comment on any numbers. I'm not aware of it, but there are a few I think that are finishing up, and at the end of the year we might have to look at hiring. I'm not sure. Jackie will have to let me know on that.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we're not throwing Jackie under the bus to talk about it right now, but that was something that I was looking forward to talking to her about live, was what the recruitment process is like and all of that sort of stuff. So, but I do believe
Yep.
our beaming, shining, happy
Yes.
guest is ready. So I'm
She
going to
is.
quickly go through and undeafen and mute her on Discord
Perfect.
for you.
You do that. I'm going to set her up her cam again, and then
Okay.
hopefully we'll be able to hear from her soon.
Hello.
That's her voice. Hello, Eesha.
Hello, Eesha.
How are you?
I've tried to. Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. What was that?
I said I tried to unmute myself, and it says a moderator or admin have to unmute you, and I felt like a naughty child put in the corner. I was like, no talking.
Yeah, no talking for you.
Yeah, so this is our lovely procedure that we do with all our guests. Anyone who's been on PASSCast knows it's such a pain in the butt of a process, but it's what works. But yeah, no. Hi, Eesha. How are you? It's great to see you.
Yeah, good. Awesome to see you guys as well.
How was your session? Did
I
I just steal it? Oh, I'm sorry.
How'd your session go?
It was good. It was fun. It's a bit sad because it's last session, and I have a great group of students who have made this trimester really fun. But we have us again next trimester. We still have exam busters, so I'm looking forward to all of that.
Have our viewer numbers just jumped because all those students of Eesha's have just popped into chat, or?
I haven't got an update yet. We are currently still at 16 though, so we're doing pretty well.
I would be surprised. They've had a long night. They had their lecture and then they had pass as well.
Oh dear. I mean, I don't think they'd be able to get enough of you, to be honest.
You guys are far too kind. Far too kind.
So we did prepare Eesha beforehand. We haven't thrown her in the deep. We did want to talk to her a bit about exams and that sort of thing. So I guess I'll start with the first question. Eesha, how do you feel about your exams?
How do I feel about my exams? Probably the same as everyone else. Nervous. The weeks leading up, I'm like, oh my god, I don't have enough time to study. Sometimes I'm just a bit all over the place. But overall, like once you get over the panic, it's like it's kind of okay. You're kind of like, I've done this before. I've got an idea of how to handle this. I'm panicking a little, but I think it's all right.
I'm going to take a step back real quick, Martin, and just, Eesha, can you tell us a bit about yourself and where you are at in your degree, since Martin's just kind of thrown you straight in with a question about your exams, but
Yes.
who are you? Why are we so excited to see you?
Why you're so excited to see me, I cannot answer that. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Eesha, and I'm obviously a PASS leader in the sciences group. So I did my undergraduate degree at the Nathan campus. I did a Bachelor of Medical Science, and I was there for 2 years. And then I moved to the Gold Coast for my postgraduate degree, which is Doctor of Medicine. So I'm currently in my second year.
And clearly, we're very thrilled to have claimed you on the Gold Coast here, taken one away from Nathan.
Yeah, Nathan doesn't get to claim you as a leader anymore. We're claiming you.
Scarlett is very sad. She says that she misses her.
Oh, my heart is in both places.
But it's physically on the Gold Coast, and that's all that matters.
This is true. That's great. So, you kind of alluded to it a bit, but what do you actually take PASS for, Eesha?
Oh, so I take PASS for biological systems this semester. And next semester, I tentatively have been allocated to chemistry too.
Perfect. We were actually just talking a bit about timetabling and scheduling and all that sort of thing. What's yours looking like? Was it easy for you to schedule and work around?
I actually haven't figured that out yet. So med is a bit different in that med doesn't exactly have a constant timetable. There are some classes which are constant, but because I'm going into the second half of second year, there are quite a few changes happening. So I need to kind of go a bit further into my timetable and see what classes are changing and when I can do PASS.
That's great. So Daniel, did you want to go, or am I asking that?
I'm going to say you can ask the next question because I have no idea what I want to ask yet. So,
so we're still processing. Perfect. Okay.
I'm still just so happy Eesha's here.
Oh, so that's the issue. You're
I'm
just
so
starstruck.
thrilled to be here. Like I'm sure everyone would agree with me. Like it is such a fantastic idea, this PASSCast, and like everyone just loves listening to you two and your banter and all the interesting things you have to say. And I'm just so thrilled to be here.
It was.
I was going to say, I'm going to quickly throw Eesha under the bus because we're talking to her in Teams this week to try and plan this out. And you said something along the lines of, oh man, it's so funny to see you two banter. And that was about us live on the PASSCast. And then later on, you were like, see, even your Teams banter is on point. And I messaged Martin, I'm like, do the people think we're putting this on and this isn't how we just talk? because the way you said it, I'm like, wait, do you think... Did you not realize that this is just how I treat him? He's an idiot.
Oh,
And I treat him as
so
such.
funny. No, I have seen you two, and it is a heartwarming bromance.
Well,
I will just put that label right there.
I was going to say the bromance really was Martin and George, but if we're going to put me on the bromance level, then okay, sure, I'll take it. But
I mean, it's hard to go past George. What an amazing human he is. But Eesha,
he's such an attractive boy too.
Yeah, we can throw that in there. I mean, this is all recorded, so I will definitely not take that out of context.
I'm sure.
So, Eesha, because the main focus of this was pretty much exams and going into that. And there's a couple sides to it that we could have, because you can have like the actual study preparation as well as the mental preparation. And we drilled the study part a lot during PASS. So I guess I wanted to get your take on, what do you think, or how can you best prepare mentally to go into an exam, and how do you mitigate like the exam stress, or when you walk into the room and everything goes out of your head? What's your kind of take on that?
I'll start with what I think of your mental space leading up to the exam, like studying for it, and then going into the exam.
That works.
So I'm glad you asked me that, because that's one thing I am really passionate about, and that is your exams are coming up. You're going to panic. But B, don't panic. It's okay. You've got this. I have both. I tell myself that and I still panic, but a part of me is also like, look, everyone has a process. Like everyone does get through this, and we have been here before. So just quickly, a couple of things I want to start with that is take care of yourself. And I know it's obvious and everyone says it, but it makes such a difference. You wouldn't believe. You feel like a new person. So my top tip would probably be exercise. And I feel like exercise is kind of underrated right now. I feel like we kind of think exercise is something we should be doing, but we don't always have time for. But really, exercise should be just as necessary as food and sleep. And you should also be eating and sleeping during exam time. I feel like I need to clarify that because some of my friends are not aware that those are things you are meant to be doing. But for exercise, I would recommend like put aside 30 minutes every day to go for a walk or something, and just make that like an incompromisable kind of period of time. So for me, I go for a walk every day between like 4 and 5, depending on when I get home. And it doesn't matter if I'm falling behind in my study, if I feel like I haven't done enough work, I always get up and I go for that walk, and I don't let myself think about anything in that walk. And that is just 30 minutes of bliss, because that's 30 minutes of time you have given to yourself, and you have that every day. And I think it's refreshing when you come back from the walk. It's something to look forward to before you go. And even just generally, like taking breaks is so important. Like sometimes you feel like you can go and you've just got all this stamina, and suddenly you hit a wall and you're like, wow, I've been studying for like 4 hours. Like I just don't want to do this anymore. So that would be my second top tip, is taking regular breaks. And I think that kind of mental preparation, I guess, that kind of idea of, yes, I'm taking care of myself and I'm studying, I think that also helps you when you get to the exam. So now talking more about your exam and approaching the exam. When you get to the exam, and I'm sure all of you have heard this before, but you have done everything you can do at that point, and all that's left is you and the exam. And someone said to me once, they said, this is the easy part. Like you have been studying for a week or 2 weeks, and that's all the hard work, and the exam is just the part where you just see what comes out. And so I guess being mindful is really good. So being in the moment and not trying to give yourself a quick test and see if you can remember 12 weeks of content in the 5 minutes you have before you go into the exam. And like really centering yourself when you sit down in the exam, that okay, I'm here. I guess I've got what I've got, and I'm going to do what I can do, and then taking that exam step by step. And I guess that's the cool thing about an exam, is that yes, you've done 12 weeks of content, but no, you are not going to have 12 weeks of content in that exam. So as soon as you start going to that exam, you can kind of start figuring out what do I need to know, what parts of my knowledge can I put aside, and that I don't have to worry about because it's not in this exam. That was kind of like a long answer.
No, that's this is what we're here for.
Yeah, that was perfect. That was great.
Awesome. But yeah, I'm a very big believer in mindfulness and in treating yourself well.
Okay. We've heard it from a future doctors.
Yes, that's true. We've got the doctor's answer there. You have to exercise, you have to treat yourself well, you have to prepare properly. So Daniel, are you still starstruck? Are you still don't have a question for her?
Well, I was actually going to add to what Eesha was saying too, with the preparation and that moment before the exam, and that stress that can sometimes get to people. And as we discussed in our last episode that we're actually on, I do have an anxiety disorder. So you would think that period for me would be actually the most stressful, but it's not. And the reason I think that is because it's one of the things that I can actually rationalize with my anxiety and tell it that no, this isn't like, because the main thing with my anxiety is not the feeling that it can kill me, because that's not how it works, but the way I look at the exam is it can't kill me. There is absolutely no way it can kill me. This is just me proving what I know or what I don't know. And for me, I look at those exams, like I never get stressed out before an exam, because I go into it going, well, it's just me and the exam now. And like Eesha said, you can't do anything more now. It's just you and the exam, and you just got to do it. And for me, that's a big thing, because it's like, well, what can I recall? What have I learned? And can I prove to myself, not this exam paper, Who cares about the exam paper? Who cares about the person marking it? Who cares about what grade I'm going to get at the end of it? Can I prove to myself that I know this content? And for me, that's a big thing, because like I've discussed on other episodes, I'm at uni because I want to be, and I want to get, like, I don't want to get a grade to try and get a grade so I get a really high GPA and get a post-grad or whatever. Like, I don't know what I want to do with any of that yet. Spoiler alert from week one. Still don't know what the hell I'm doing. But now, for me, it's just like, okay, I want to go and I want to show that I know this course. And as you may remember from last week, because I had my quiz in calculus, I came out of it and I got 17 out of 20, and everyone's sitting there going, see, you didn't do as badly as you thought. And I'm like, yeah, but I have no idea what the hell I was doing. Like, it was multiple choice, and a lot of those choices I looked at and I went, well, it could be this, this, and this, and I'm going with that one because I don't know what those other ones mean. But I sort of know what this one means, and that's what I'm going with. And I came out of it, and even though I got 17 out of 20, most people would be like, that's a high distinction. You did great. I was sitting there feeling like crap because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand that content, and if you put a gun to my head and asked me to answer those questions again, I would give you completely different answers because I don't know that content well enough. And that's what I think stresses me out more. And as you saw me going into that quiz, Martin, I wasn't stressed about the quiz. I just didn't want to do it because I knew I wasn't going to prove what I knew.
Yes.
Because I didn't know anything, or it felt like I didn't know anything.
Well, I think it is more that latter, the latter one of you feeling like you didn't know anything. Because remember, in PASS, yeah, spoiler alert, everyone, in case you haven't realized yet, Daniel is a student of mine in PASS. I asked you, I said, okay, what's the answer to this? What's the answer to this? How do you solve this? How do you do that? And you were able to do it. So there's nothing in there that you weren't able to do, and I knew you were prepared for it. It was just you having to get out of that mindset, and when you sit in the exam, it's a totally different, I guess, thought process.
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the questions I have for Eesha, because it's something I was also going to talk about, but I want to hear what she says first. But how do you approach the actual exam itself when you get into the exam? So if you've got, let's say you've got 10 minutes perusal time, what do you do with your perusal time?
So the first thing I do is I go through the entire exam as quick as possible. Because in the past, when I first started having perusal time, I just take my time going through the questions and see if I could answer each one, and then I'd run out of time to go through the whole exam. So step one, quickly flick through all the pages, see how long the exam is, get an idea of the topics. Step two is I kind of go back through the exam a bit more slowly and have a look at the ones that I'm feeling less confident about. Maybe the ones that have longer answers, maybe the ones that I can't quite remember the answers to, and spend a bit more time on that. The third thing, if you're allowed to write during perusal, I always plan my time. And I think that makes such a difference. I always plan to have some time to check at the end. So one thing I want to probably say straight up is things do not go to plan. Like 99% of the time, they do not. But it is so worth planning out your time because at least you can see where you're trekking. So if you're like, okay, I was going to spend half an hour on part one, but it's now 45 minutes. Yes, I'm going to finish this in the next 5 minutes, but either A, I have to work more quickly on the next two parts, or B, I just have to accept that I'm going to have less time at the end to look through the answers. And at least it gives you an idea of where you are. Because sometimes if you don't plan out your time, it kind of feels like you're going in blind and you're just kind of like rushing through it and you don't know if you're on time, if you're behind time, or if you're actually giving yourself more time. How about you? How do you approach your exam?
Really poorly, actually. But I want to hear how Martin approaches his exams since he's about to graduate and he's got his last two exams coming up. So for the last 600 years of university that you've been at, Martin, how have you approached your exams each trimester?
It's actually quite funny because it's evolved every trimester. I have not taken an exam the same since I started, just because experience has told me that how to improve and how to do better. I think my current one is actually quite similar to Eesha's. I'm quite fortunate though in the sense that my exams are never long because in engineering or in the math courses I do, we only have say maybe 4 questions, 3 questions, and that's our exam. We have 2 hours to do 3 or 4 questions. So it's not really about, for me, trying to find which question's the easiest or which one do I do first, or it's more about looking through it, trying to understand the question. Most of my exams are you're allowed to write during perusal. So for me, it's about trying to pick apart different aspects, or at least to memory dump if I can. So if there's something I know I need to remember, I'll just dump it for each question. So for me, the planning aspect of it is to firstly understand what I'm being asked. For any of my past students in chat, you'll know that I love the study skill of RTFQ. And that's essentially it for me. Is the first thing I have to do is read the fucking question. I need to look at it. What is it asking? Were you trying to process it there for a second, Eesha?
I was like, RTFQ. I was like, I wonder what that is. I was going to ask you next. That's so funny.
There we go.
So
Yeah,
true, though. Like, amen.
So that's one that I love. Yeah, and yeah, now Jackie's got RTFE, which is the new one for me, because I clearly can't do that one. So that's a study skill in progress, Jackie. We're going with it. But yeah, so I read the question. I try and pick it apart, because, if I've got 3 questions, they're obviously not short questions. If I've got 3 questions to do in 2 hours, they're quite long. So I have to figure out what it's asking me, what are the steps I need, and kind of try and plan a breakdown of each. I still do look at what's easiest and what's hardest, and try and get a plan. Like, there's some questions that are very similar to practice questions I have during the semester. So I'll look at doing those and trying to memory dump them. But then the harder ones, it's a bit more about breaking it down and trying to actually deconstruct or figure out what do I know, and how can I apply what I know to those questions. Because the main thing, like, I get a lot of students who will, and I can rationalize it. Like, I understand why, because back when I was in first and second year, I did the same thing. But students will come out of an exam and they'll say, "Oh my God, we didn't learn this. Why was this in the exam? We haven't been taught this." No, that's not true. That is 100% wrong. You do know this. You have been taught it. You just haven't been able to unlock the knowledge you need to get there. So that's the thing for me. It's about that, I guess, mental resilience, and knowing that it has been taught. It's in there somewhere. I have to figure out just how to get from point A to point B, from my question to my answer. So that's typically my perusal time. Yeah, it's pretty good at the moment. We'll see how we go. I've got 2 exams left, and then I graduate, so I'm hoping I don't screw those 2 up at the final hurdle, but we'll see how we go.
Mr.
Of course
80.
you weren't.
So Mr. 80 out of 80 here, worrying about his final.
Oh
I
dear.
might just add to that as well. When you see, like, when you're doing your exam, like, if you see a question, one thing I want to say is, like, don't panic if you don't know it. Because when I was younger, I know I used to see it and be like, oh my God, I have no idea what this is. I didn't study this hard enough. And then you panic, and that just kind of ruins the rest of the exam a little bit for you.
No, you're
Yeah,
right.
it throws you off a little, doesn't it? So always, like, it's exactly what Daniel said, and I love that you said that, is that the exam is really about proving to yourself what you know as well. So if you have a look at a question and you're not sure what it is, like, A, just give it some time. Like, if you can, try and word dump and write what you think you know about the question. And B, look, sometimes, and comes back to timing, sometimes you just have to force yourself to leave the question and come back to it later. And do you know what? Sometimes you do have that spontaneous moment later on where you're like, oh my gosh, I actually do know what that is. I do know what the answer is. And you go back and add the answer, or even just part of the answer, because every little bit helps. Because yeah, it's you, the exam, and what you know. And sometimes you can make miracles happen, and sometimes you can't, and that's okay too.
I have found it's quite, I guess, frightening, really, in the sense that I have had those moments many times where I'm just like, I have no idea. I genuinely don't know. I can't answer this. This is going to be blank. And then I'll get towards the end of the exam, and it's while I'm doing another question, it's kind of like a light bulb, like, oh my God, I know this. And then I'll obviously go back and start. So I do have those moments, and it is quite reassuring, at least now that I have so many exams that I've taken. I've got that experience of knowing, okay, I don't have to stress, because it might come. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe this is the one time it doesn't. But I have the experience knowing that there's no point in stressing throughout it, because it's not going to help you at all.
Honestly, it's low-key like a superpower. If you can look at a question and not freak out and just be like, look, I might have to accept that this is going to be blank and that's
Yeah.
how I'll hand it in.
Yep.
It is a superpower being able to do that. Like, yeah.
It happens.
It does. And there's something you mentioned in there, Martin, about students coming out of exams going, I wasn't taught this or whatever. That I feel like for at least the two that we know are here, my first year linear students, slash engineering math students, you guys are probably going to experience that because Tim has already told you that
Yes.
the exam is going to be written with the idea that you have access to all of your
Yes.
resources. So that's another really big thing that I want to throw out there for any of the
Yes.
online exams at the moment. In that, if you have open, one second.
I do agree with him. Oh, I don't have to go on a spitball here.
Sorry. Look at what they're telling you you have access to. So for my first years, they have what Tim has basically called open everything. You can use any calculator you want. You can have any resources you want. You can use any resources on the internet to solve the questions. And when somebody asked him, oh, okay, so does that mean it's going to be harder? He has said, well, no, it's not necessarily going to be harder, but it is going to be different because you're not just going to be tested on what you've learned, but you're going to have to show that you can apply what you've learned as well. And I think that idea does scare some people, and it will be the difference between a distinction and a high distinction student from what I've learnt recently / last year about the definitions of what the university sees as a high distinction and a distinction student, which I don't have the official words. Martin, talk.
No, yeah, and it's a good point to raise in the sense that a lot of students will panic when they have that sort of online exam. I've expressed this in all my past sessions this week, and I will do so tomorrow. I am concerned, not really in the ability of my students. I'm concerned that maybe I wouldn't have prepared them enough for it because I had no idea it was online, and that they had open access to everything. So, I spent so much time trying to develop the study skills and things like that for them. I wish I spent a little more time trying to develop the, I guess, application side of it, because that's a skill that's really difficult for them in general. Like for first and second years in general, it's difficult to, like, it's very easy to know how to do something, a procedure, to follow it. But when you have to start getting that, and this is what we try and hammer home with PASS, those higher order critical thinking skills of, applying it and trying to not get them to just remember things and follow steps, it's difficult. And, with open access to anything, this is where they're really going to be tested on that. It's not something where we're kind of like, oh, yeah, you need to know how to have these higher order critical thinking skills because you're going to need it down the track. No, they're going to need it in this exam. So that's what's going to be, I guess, a bit interesting. And that's actually going to be the focus of our exam buster, is how they can make sure that they're applying content to their exam instead of just learning the steps to do it, because that's what they're going to need to do. It's not going to be just an exam where they can look at their books, they'll have an answer. That's not like that. So that's I guess the issue with online learning, is that that is an option that lecturers can and are rightfully expected to take, but it means that students really need to be aware that it's not going to be a straightforward exam, and that's okay, but they shouldn't stress about it.
Yeah, it's not something to worry about. The words I was trying to say before was that it was actually Tim that told me the definitions between a distinction and a high distinction student, and I don't have the official university again, words for what they want those to be, because I can't think of the word still. But pretty much what I was going into my degree thinking was what a 7 / high distinction student was expected. Tim actually enlightened me to say, well, no, that's actually what the university views as a credit to a distinction student. So I was actually, and this is something I feel like a lot of students will be doing to themselves too, and that's putting yourself under more pressure than you actually need to be. Like, yeah, it's great if you come through with a 7. And for me, the idea of me getting a 7 is I knew all that content and I knew how to do it, and I could do any question that they gave me on the exam, and that makes me feel really good. But by the university's definition and by what Tim was telling me, that's actually just at a distinction level. What the high distinction students are expected to be able to do is take exactly what we've just talked about, those higher order thinking and the critical thinking towards it, and going, okay, well, for example, I don't know much about human biology, so I won't even try and use it as an example. Maybe you can come up with one, Eesha. But Martin, you and I will know it. Like for like a matrix, yeah, we know how to do a matrix. We know how to find a determinant of a matrix. We might know how to find, how to multiply matrices. That's great. But what Tim might then give you in the exam is, how then do you use that multiplication of those matrices to find something else that's more important? And it's like, okay, well, how can I do that? And it's like, oh, wait, we learnt about eigenvalues as well. So it's not just connecting that I'm multiplying these two matrices, but I might have to multiply them and then find their determinant. Or I might have to multiply these matrices and then find their eigenvalues. And then that'll give me the answer that he's actually after. And it's not just one step of the learning that you've learned, but all these different steps. And that's all that is. Like, do you have an example you could potentially think of for your courses, Eesha, for that sort of stuff?
In a manner of speaking, but not as much. So for the early biology courses, like human biology and biological systems and even chemistry, a lot of it is really the basics. So most of it is kind of it's more recall than application. I think application more comes in your later subjects. But I would probably apply that to just learning the content. I think that so helps. With human biology, especially, if you can integrate the content you've learned early on with the content you've learned later, things start making more sense. If you can actually reason with yourself why the adaptive immune system is more effective, or if you can understand why, I guess, the macular denser cells are so important in the kidney, that logic is going to help you remember that information for the future, and that is also using those higher order thinking skills.
It's a good thing I knew exactly what Eesha was saying. All the words there. Total sense.
As soon as she started talking, I just started nodding my head, going, yep, that sounds...
No,
Eesha knows what she's talking about. She could be completely wrong, but
no,
she's
but
saying she's saying it with confidence, so I believe her.
The point she was making was really valid, though, about having that foundation level of understanding and then using that. I guess the recall in first year, yeah, it works great. But then when you get into your second, third, fourth year and you need to start having that application, you need to have a good foundation. Otherwise, it's not going to work for you. So it's a very good point. And, doing the science half of my degree, I can actually definitely see how that works and where that applies, because I haven't actually considered that or really thought about it. But looking back now in hindsight, yeah, that's very true. And you do have that sort of stepwise approach to the biosciences and that sort of thing.
And one other thing too, and again, not because I like name dropping him a lot, but something that Tim actually told me too, when I was talking to him about it on the tram randomly this trimester, was, yeah, because I happened to run into him on the tram. So we got chatting about things, and he's like, there's so many different things that students miss when doing exams that him as a lecturer and him as the person that's written the exam, is like, if they just done this little bit more, it would have been fine. And the thing he was talking about was actually something I'm guilty of, and I know I'm guilty of. So this is sort of me explaining how I approach exams, and I know it's wrong because I've literally had a lecturer tell me in not uncertain words that my approach is wrong. But I go from question 1 and I work to the end, and I try and do every question. And if I get to a question I'm not real sure at, I will nut away at it for a little while until I go, you know what, I can't do this one, I'll move on to the next one. But it's such a bad thing to do, and I know it's a bad thing to do, but it's the way I've always approached it, and I can't break that. But something that Tim mentioned to me is that a lot of other students, not just me, do that, and they miss out on some really easy marks because the way he will write a maths exam, for example, is he'll put all the vectors at the beginning and then all of the complex numbers next and then all the matrices, but he'll start with the really easy questions that may only be worth 1 mark. But there's like 8 of them, and then there'll be one question at the end that's worth 5 marks, and that'll take you 3 times as long to do as the one that gave you the 10 1 marks. And so instead of doing all the 1 mark questions, people will get stuck on this one question and be spending all their time trying to get 5 marks, when it's like, if you'd just gone on to the next question and done the next 8, you would have gotten just as many, if not more, marks from easier questions. So that's something that I'm actively going to go into my exam, and not just because Tim partially wrote it, but I'm going to go into my exam with this idea that it's okay for me to skip over a question if it takes me too long to think about the process, because the next question might be only worth 1 mark, but if I get a whole bunch of 1 marks, they're going to count for something bigger in the end. And I think that that's something that not just me as a student struggles with, but I think a lot of people struggle with, because I've done that in my PASS sessions this trimester, and my students can attest to this. I will put a really, really, really stupid hard question as the first question, and they will sit there the entire PASS session trying to work on it. I'm like, but why didn't you go to question 2 and 3? You could have solved those in 10 minutes. Like, and that would be my study skill for the week, is don't just go to the first question and go, okay, I need to do this. Because if you just go into that and you just do that one question, you might not get anywhere. But yeah, that's sort of me answering my approach to exams. And I know it's not a good approach, and I'm still working on it, and that's okay.
No, and that's the thing. Like, it is a learning process, and you'll get there eventually. Hopefully, that's what I'm aiming for you at least. But we'll figure that out when we get there.
Make me sound like I'm a lost cause.
No, it's more that you're fixed. You're very fixed in how you do things, so it's very difficult to make you change your track. So that's why it's a chip away type thing.
No, but you've got such good self-awareness, Daniel, because look, that is such a good point, and that's probably the second thing I'd say about approaching my exams. So yes, I told you guys how I approach perusal. The actual exam, and I didn't used to do this either, Daniel. I used to do the same thing as you. Is yes, go through all the questions that you can do. That's the first thing you should do. So go through the questions that you are easier and that you already know the answer through, and then go through the exam a second time and do the questions that were a little bit more difficult but you can still handle, and then go through the exam a third time and start addressing those questions you haven't started addressing yet. And it takes a lot of self-control to go past a question you're struggling with.
Oh yeah.
But sometimes you have to. And do you know what? You might find that you're at a question you struggle a bit. You go to the next one and you struggle with that too, and you go to the next one and you struggle with that too, and then you can just go back to the first one again. Like, it's not an issue if you keep feeling like you're struggling. Just keep moving and keep adding things and keep getting those marks.
I agree. That's the perfect
Well,
way.
that also comes into too what you were mentioning about have that time management so that you can get through. And yeah, you might have to re-go through the exam 3 times, but you've allocated the time to do that. So you're not going to be there going through it the first time and then starting your second run and they're like 5 minutes remaining and you're like, what? So the other thing too that may sound counterintuitive at first, but if you write an answer and you're really confident that that's the right answer and you recheck through it later, and I'm saying this because, again, not to call out one of my students in the chat, but I know he's done this in both of his quizzes this trimester. It's not Drew; it's the other particular student. But he said to me after I've checked with him, like, "How'd you go on your quiz?" And he's like, "Oh, look, I got 18 out of 20 or whatever." And I'm like, okay, well, what happened? He's like, I had the right answer and then I second guessed myself, so I changed it. And it's like, sometimes you just got to go with your gut and go, okay, yeah, that is the right answer. And then look at it again later. And if you're not quite sure, maybe don't change the entire answer. Stick with what you initially thought and then really think about it and go, does this make logical sense? Because I don't know how he went went with them and why he changed his mind. I didn't get that into it with him, but it's something I've done as well. And I think you'll remember from my first quiz, Martin, the one thing I screwed up was the thing that I second guessed myself on. And then after I finished working it out, the way that I'd second guessed myself on doing it, I looked at the time and went, well, this can't be right, because I actually had confirmation that the answer was wrong because of the working that I'd had to do. And I couldn't go back and redo all the working because I had 5 minutes left. And if I just stuck with what I thought I had to do the first time, I would have had the answer the first time.
Oh, yeah.
But I second guessed myself and went, no, it can't be that. I got to go with this instead. And I went with that and got the wrong answer.
It's it's an unfortunate thing, but it's a good skill for students to kind of try to remember that second guessing themselves, especially if they know they have the right answer, go with your gut. That's the best thing you can do, is go with what your gut says.
I have to agree with that as well. Like my first university quiz, I second guessed myself so much, and I made, like, you come out of a quiz and someone's like, oh, I messed this up because I did this. And someone else will say, oh, I just realized I did this question wrong because I misunderstood it.
No.
So I had like 6 people telling me they did 6 different things. So 6 people telling me they did 6 wrong things for 6 different questions, and I had done that for all 6 questions. So that was my first university quiz. I was like, oh. But it is important not to second guess yourself and to trust your gut. And part of that is probably the pressure you put on yourself that I have to get this right. What if this is wrong?
Yeah.
And that's just coming back to that whole thing that it's you, it's your knowledge, it's the exam, and it's what you can prove to yourself. And the less pressure you have on yourself, the better you're going to do.
That's true. So I am conscious of time for you, Eesha, and we will get to questions. So I do have one question, last one. Daniel and I, at least, and I'm sure many of the other leaders, have you as the embodiment of a perfect PASS leader. We
Oh
really...
my gosh, I wish. That is such a lie.
we really do quite look up to you and how you are as a PASS leader.
Don't spread these false rumors, Martin. There are impressionable students on this.
Okay, we won't spread any lies. Eesha is actually the perfect PASS leader.
I'm sorry, Eesha, but Jackie has just
said
it. Jackie has just said it in chat, so you can't disagree with it. Yeah.
Jackie's even throwing you under the bus, so everyone except you believes it. So
exactly. So the point I was making is we have this idea that you are this perfect PASS leader, perfect model student, and everything. So my question to you is, what is your worst exam habit? What is the one thing that if you're thinking you always do and you know it's wrong?
My worst exam habit. I've kind of got 2. Okay, so one would be like I keep on talking about time management, and that's because that's my biggest issue. Like I spend too long on questions. So there'll be a question, and it'll be like a 2-mark question, and I'll be like, I'm just gonna answer this super succinctly, and I'll write the answer, and it'll be like 5 lines. And I'll be like, I should not have spent that much time on that question. And I just keep doing that, especially with the questions that are worth a little more. So there's probably that. My other worst exam habit is probably, and this is more applicable to my med exams, I guess, and that is probably second guessing myself and kind of freaking out about the answer. Because it's so important to keep on moving and really try and rationalize the answer with yourself. And look, at the end of the day, if you don't know the answer, you don't know the answer. And sometimes your gut knows the answer, and you just got to go with your gut. So I think it's finding that balance with time management and being able to say that it's okay not to know the answer, and it's okay if this is the wrong answer, but just go with this because this is what you've got.
Perfect. Not that we were trying to find a fault in you, but we had to make sure you were, not some godly being just
very funny.
Here.
I just find it so ironic that Martin is the one calling me a perfect PASS leader when you have the most fantastic sessions. I've observed Martin, I think 3 or 4 times now, and this man had the most amazing energy the last time I did this observation, and then I found out he had like 3 hours of sleep the night before, and I was like, okay, clearly an ideal I can't reach, but I will aspire for you, towards you, Martin.
Oh dear. I have many regrets about opening this conversation now.
I'll see. I get to sit back here and be like, I get to listen to 2 of the best PASS leaders while I'm still I still just go into my PASS sessions treating my students like they're my friends, and that's how we run it. So
I think that's how we all tried to do it. So clearly you're on the right track and you
I
are
was
a
going
good
to say
pass
I
leader.
learned that from you. So
It works. I mean, that's the thing, and that's what we, Eesha can. Oh well, you can too actually now, as because you are a senior leader.
yes,
When we do train new leaders, we try to, I guess, let them know a bit about how we run our sessions because we know what works, and we want to let them know that they have these options available for them to, I guess, try to emulate or take the good parts out, or take the good points out from how they see us and how they view us. So, that's the goal, and we do have a great team that because of that. Daniel, Jackie has said that you did get leader of the week twice now, technically. So
He has. He has.
so
okay, getting it twice in the week doesn't mean as much when literally everyone got it the second week.
okay, but you've still got it more times than me, so you do have bragging rights.
And
Yeah,
I'd
but
just like to highlight that clearly anything Martin or Daniel say about their own capabilities as pass leaders is clearly false. So I would encourage you guys not to listen to that.
Ah dear, I have many regrets about this. On to questions.
Yeah.
Now.
Have
Moving
we got
on.
any questions
We
from the
do.
chat? Has Michael collected some
Yes,
queries?
we do have questions. So we've got one from Shay. This is completely off topic, but I like it because
Yay!
I love the off topic questions. So firstly, she asks, how do you come up with activities for your sessions? What's your thought process? She would love a glimpse behind the scenes.
Okay. Just shout out to Shay. You're amazing. I love your activities. I love your aesthetics. Shay is just amazing as a pass leader. Okay, moving on. So, I go through the week's content, and so I try to skim it, and I try to write like kind of brief notes on everything, and then I go back through and highlight what I think the students are going to struggle with most. So if there's content that I'm like, look, I think they can learn this on their own, I tend to skim over that, and then I choose, then I highlight the other topics. And then when I try to come up with the activities, sometimes it just jumps out at you that, oh, this would be fun to do. Other times I kind of just think of, like, I guess like the basic set of activities that are at your disposal. So I've been doing online for a while, so I'd be thinking like, do I want to do a fill in the blanks? Do I want to match different things? Do I want to have them do a table, label a diagram? And then I like doing fun things. I feel like I haven't been able to do it as much recently. But so sometimes I just kind of look for, how can I insert some random Disney character here, or give this like a funny scenario.
That's so good. Oh, yeah,
and
as Daniel points
yes,
out.
and Daniel's got some awesome friends there in the back. And then also just being inspired. Hey, also just being inspired by other past leaders as well. So in case the students don't know, so as I alluded to earlier, we often observe each other as past leaders to give each other feedback, and it is so awesome seeing the activities that other leaders do. And I think that's just always gives you more ideas for the next thing.
No, it's true. I love the observations more than anything because I can steal ideas. Not gonna lie, I have never used butcher's paper in all 4 years I've done pass. This trimester, after I was observing someone, I can't remember who, they were using the butcher's paper, and I was in a bit of a slump with pass in terms of creativity and things. And I saw how well the butcher's paper worked, and I went to Kaylee. So Kaylee's my Calc 2
Co-leader.
co-leader, thank you. And I was like, can we try the butcher's paper? I really want to try the butcher's paper. Can we do it in our sessions? And then we did. So we tried it in her session first, and it worked so well. Like, it solved every single problem that we had with our self-reflections and what was going wrong. And that was simply because I observed someone and thought, let's just try this. Butcher's paper. Simplest idea. You guys in bio have been doing it from the start. Never considered it because I thought, it's a bit of a creative thing. We don't really use it for math. Wrong. We can use it and it works really well. So, Mackenzie's just said big yes to stealing other people's activities. I agree. Hard agree.
Big yes to stealing their butcher's paper too, because she's very good at taking all the butcher's paper at the end and taking everyone's ideas, because nobody wants to keep their butcher's paper at the end. And so Mackenzie literally just comes through and hoovers them all up and is like, yep, I've got
Mackenzie,
everyone's
I
ideas.
respect that, absolutely.
So
what a golden idea.
It's a really good study skill for students as well, and Mackenzie is the one taking advantage of it here because no one wants to take it. We'll tell them, take photos of it, take the butcher's paper. No one wants it. So what she does is essentially collects every group's butcher's paper. So she has all these resources for herself now. So it's
like literally, we were sitting there doing our quiz the other day, and she's like, "Do you want me to pull out the butcher's paper?" And we're like, "You don't have the butcher's paper." And she had this one little pocket at the front of her laptop bag, and it literally had all of the trimester's butcher's paper.
Oh my gosh, Mackenzie, you
like
are
that
fantastic.
It was absolutely hilarious, but also like, holy crap, that's a really good idea.
Just to
actually like a life hack.
Just to throw it out there, I know we went on for like 5 minutes answering that question, but Hillary has answered it in 2 words to summarize how you do your amazing sessions. Natural talent is what she says. That's it.
That is such a lie. I have to say, I appreciate you keep on name dropping people because now I can also mention how amazing Hillary is and her. Like, I am so inspired by her slide designs and her activities. Because I got a chance to look through a lot of her stuff as well. Shout out to Hillary. No, and also, natural talent is like a lie, complete lie. You guys, people are gonna come to my PASS sessions next week and be next trimester and be like, where's this amazing person we heard about? There's just this ordinary person here giving me butcher's paper and colored markers.
That's a very easy way to sell yourself short.
I was going to say, if anyone comes into any of your PASS sessions and thinks that, they've clearly not gotten the memo.
Yeah, so guys, we are open to a few more questions now. If you have anything about exams you want to ask Eesha or anything in general, feel free. She is an incredible senior leader. She's been doing PASS for a few years now too, so she has a wealth of experience. And you, as you could probably tell from this podcast, she does have such an amazing skill set behind her because of how long and how experienced she is.
One thing while people are coming up with questions, I'll ask Eesha about, since it's something that she was working with Zena and Hylan on last year. But what was it like creating that resource bank that you've given us as PASS leaders? Because I'll be honest, I kind of sold it short on, I've got in my head what I'm going to do for math and I'm never going to need to use this. But I was really stuck for a study skill one week and I opened it up and I was like, holy crap, there's so many study skills in here. And then I used one that was just like there on the tip of my tongue, but I'd never thought about actually saying. So can you talk about the creative process that you girls went through with that? And I guess give a shout out to Zena and Hylan.
I'm so glad to hear that it helped. Zena and Hylan are absolute queens. So the way that worked, I think, was I think a lot of PASS leaders struggled coming up with a different study skill every session. And I think maybe this was like kind of soonish after observations. And we were like, like some people are doing some really cool stuff. Like it'd be nice if everyone got to, I guess, be exposed to these ideas. So we approached Jackie and Jackie's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And so I guess the way that worked, it was a mammoth task. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it. It was really interesting. So Zena and Hylan and I each, we got all the PASS leaders and split them into 3 groups and divided that between us. And we basically went through like every PASS leader's activities and noted down any study skills that they had. So obviously if people had the same study skill, we wouldn't note it down again. So basically we took down everyone else's study skills. We added our own study skills. So that was kind of like phase 1. And then we kind of compared what we had, saw what overlapped. Then we wrote a first draft of everything and we kind of grouped the study skills by like, exam strategy or how to write your notes or how to remember things. So we kind of had that draft one and then we shared that with each other and added anything that had been missed or added to things that were overlapping. Then we added in some examples from the awesome PASS leaders that we had been looking at in from their sessions and their session plans. And then we went through it a couple of times and that was that.
That's phenomenal. Oh my God.
Sounds like way too much work.
Oh
We
dear.
we had like Jackie was very generous with how much time she gave us there.
Yeah.
And like I said, Xena and Hylan were absolutely amazing to work with, like so organized, so on top of everything. So it was fun. It was really cool.
You know what else sounds like a lot of work, Daniel?
What?
Shay's way to win the survey competition.
Oh my god.
Ooh, I haven't heard of this.
I think Shay,
I'm,
are you...
I outed her to my students, and I'm like, apparently I screwed up by giving you guys all of this stuff for free. I should have been holding it ransom till the end of the trimester, but would you like to out her strategy?
I kind of do, because I'm both annoyed and impressed at the same time. I'm annoyed because I can't do it. That's why I'm annoyed at it.
Me too.
Because
And
I genuinely, when our Nathan spy, we have a little Nathan spy who gathered intel and told us about this little plan. So when that spy told us, I was in a pass session and I just stood there. Like I just stood there. I was trying to think, oh my god, this is the most genius thing ever. I need to do it. And then I thought about it and I don't have time to do it. So I don't know how she did it, but I couldn't. But to summarize, Shay, so I obviously came up with the idea of incentivizing, despite what Daniel might call it. I incentivized
bribery.
students to do the survey with chocolates, and I'm still doing that now. So that's doing pretty well at the moment, working with that. But our student,
Shay went up to it.
she did, she incentivized them with a summary of the entire coursework.
Holy moly, you're kidding. Isn't Shay doing human biology?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Shay.
How do we beat that? I couldn't.
I mean, what was it, like 150 responses day one?
Yeah, no, she killed it.
Oh my gosh, Shay, that's amazing.
Like 150, I don't think we even got 150 responses last year when we were pushing our students to do it.
No.
But she got 150 in like a day, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Well, I'm out of that competition.
Absolutely phenomenal effort. Wow.
It's incredible. I'm still trying for second though. I am Kem in second place. I'm not surprised Kem is in second place because they do have a lot of.
Here's the reason I'm dirty about it though, because I was using my for linear algebra, the course is basically divided up into 5 different topics, and as an incentive to attend more sessions or to come to my quiz busters and stuff, I was giving out those summaries that I'd done last year as an incentive for them to come to those things. Then I get to the end of the year, end of the trimester, and here's Shay basically doing the exact same thing but for her surveys, and I'm like, I screwed up here.
You did. You've missed
I
an
screwed up.
opportunity.
I have been giving this stuff away for free just because I really like my students. Not saying she doesn't. But I really like my students, and I just wanted to reward them for coming to my sessions. And then it turns out, oh, look, I probably should have been holding it as a ransom for them doing a survey.
So funny.
I'm actually kind of dirty about it because I'm like, I already had those. Like, I wouldn't have had to do any extra work. I had them prepared from last year, and Shay's literally just taken that idea and used it for surveys. So I'm like, okay, cool. Sweet.
Bad luck.
I love you, Shay, but I really don't like you at the moment.
I think both are legendary efforts and both will help students in different ways.
Yeah.
And Daniel, you low-key do that actually, though. You could be like, well, I will make all of my summaries available for the people who do the survey.
That's a good idea.
The thing I've decided about my surveys, instead of wanting to win the most surveys, I just want to get the best feedback. So I'm going to make sure all of the people that come to my exam buster do it, because they're the people I want to hear from, because they're the ones that came to 5 or more sessions. Not saying those people that didn't make it to 5 or more sessions don't have an opinion. They can have an opinion. But I value the opinion of the people that were in the trenches with me every week. Going through this turmoil of a trimester with me. So those guys that came to every like have more than 5 attendances, I want to hear from them. I want to hear what they have to say, because you know, you might have gone to one PASS session, you might have been like, oh man, he smelt like dung that day. And yeah, okay, I stepped in some dung on the way to the session, but like, I don't want to hear about that. I want to hear about the people that have come every other week and been like, okay, well, this really worked for Daniel, but this was also really crap. And that happened every week. Like, I didn't get emails as feedback, but every week I told my students, give me feedback. And one week they were just like, you know what, we really like your Kahoots, but this one was too long. Can we just do the worksheet instead? And I was like, okay, sweet, cool. I'll stop doing a Kahoot. And they're like, no, 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 don't stop. Just don't make it like just don't make it like 17 questions. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, fine.
That's true.
Yeah. Just a shout out to the students here. Like honestly, your feedback makes such a difference. Because like yes, like it's nice getting positive feedback. It makes us feel good as well. But like hearing what you guys want changed about PASS, hearing maybe what put you off coming to PASS initially, or why you didn't come to 5 or more sessions, is really important for us as well. Because PASS is designed for you guys, for the students. So whatever we can do better for you guys, we want to do that.
And that's the thing. Like I've had my students show me some of their feedback, even though it's meant to be an anonymous survey. They've showed me what they've said about me.
Didn't one student do it on the projector this week?
One student did it on the projector this week. Spoiler alert, it was Daniel. So I've had students show me their feedback, and the students that showed me their feedback have been really nice, like too nice. They've been all positives, really nice, praising, blah blah blah, and I really appreciate it. Like that's what drives me and makes me happy. But I do want that negative feedback too. Like that's the main
I
thing.
put negative feedback on there. I said you smell, and you told me to take that out because it was unprofessional.
I don't know why you're allowed to do a survey. Yeah,
you were
but
the
no,
one incentivizing with chocolate.
that's true. But yeah, no, that positive and negative feedback is really vital for us, particularly because we do use it to reflect and see how we can improve.
Like, I would be perfectly happy if my linear algebra students were like, can we have a pass leader that isn't Daniel? Because I ran so many sessions this trimester. If they're like, can we just like not have you? That'd be fine too.
Even
I doubt anyone would ever want to say that.
agreed. Even Dan is on the bribing train, so I don't think I'm gonna get out of that. Okay, we do have 2 questions before we
Oh,
have
excellent. We actually have relevant questions.
Yes,
Good.
before we have to let Eesha go back to her busy schedule. So the first one was from Shay again. Let me scroll up. People talk a lot today. Oh my god.
We got a chatty chat, haven't we?
We do have a chatty chat. Okay. So how different are exams in undergrad versus postgrad?
Do you know what? I think the experience is quite different for me than it would be for other postgraduate students.
Mm-hmm.
Just because medicine is quite a different degree.
Yep.
In that it's kind of built again from the ground up. In the sense that when you start med, everyone is assumed to have zero science knowledge. Yep. So you're just kind of taught everything again relevant to medicine from the base up. If I had to say how they were different, med is, the questions are very clinically based. So it's kind of like human biology content, but the questions you're being tested with are a lot more clinically relevant, a lot more application. So I guess you would find that in most postgraduate degrees, if it's taking you one step further. So if it's telling you, if you have to know, for example, the menstrual cycle, you have to know about luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone and eggs and sperms and things like that. The question might not be about what the function of the hormone is, but it might be about how many days, what day would this particular woman fall pregnant? Or what do you think would happen in this particular scenario? So I couldn't speak for all postgraduate degrees, but I would probably suspect that it would be quite similar, that it does shift to being more application based.
That makes sense. That's cool. That's a really insightful answer, I think, actually.
A random side note, that topic seemed really interesting, and I might need to talk to you about that later.
Oh dear. Okay, then last question we've got is from Dan, of course. He asks, what is your most memorable PASS session?
My most memorable PASS session.
I think he's asked that of every guest so far, hasn't he?
Has he? Okay. Oh, let me think. It would have to be a session from my first year, which was face to face.
Really putting her on the spot here with it.
Yeah. All right. Well, there was one past session where I rocked up with an activity. I had all these cutouts, and I was like really excited to do this activity. It was about plants. It was biological systems. And I had two
Photosynthesis
students
dance.
come to the session, and one student had not done the content or any of the lectures. So he had no idea what was going on, and I was like, "Oh, it's all right. We'll help you." And the other student there was helping him out as well. And in the end, it actually like kind of worked out. Like we kind of got somewhere, which is kind of nice. And then the next session, the student who had a bit of background knowledge before she came to the next session as well, and I had two more students. And then the activity just kind of worked even better because there were more students who remembered the content, and then she kind of had an idea of what was going on as well. So that was kind of a nice change, I suppose, from the start of the session, which was like, this is not going to work at all. I should have planned something else. To kind of being like, oh, actually, you know what? You can kind of change this a bit, and you can adapt it a bit. And I mean, when the students are happy to go with the activity and happy to try, like, I mean, it does work in the end. And I think that's a nice feeling to know that they've taken something away from the session. Because I think the worst feeling is when you get to the end of the session and think, that was terrible. I don't know if they learned anything. I think that I confused them, which is another reason we really value your feedback. So you can tell us when we ramble too much or use tricky questions.
Yeah, I am a very big I have a big issue with that, definitely. A lot of people will tell me that I talk too much.
Also, like, really quick shout out to Dan. Dan has like some of the most creative activities ever. I'm so sorry. It's not on
I love
purpose.
it. No, I love it.
Everyone
I
just
love
happens
it.
to be an amazing pass leader. I just remember, you said most memorable pass session. I actually thought of one of Dan's. Like at the end of at the end of trimester 2 of my first year of uni, I just decided to rock up to his final pass session for no reason. It was fundamentals of biochemistry, and he was doing this activity where everyone was standing in a circle, and he just had this massive inflatable ball. I was like, what? And you had to throw the ball to someone. You had to throw the ball in the circle, and whoever caught the ball had to answer the question. And like, it's still just answering questions, but it was just so awesome and so fun. And there was chocolate involved as well. And I was like, oh, I should have come to more of these sessions. But, yeah.
Love that.
Just on a quick note on that, for my linear algebra students, if you want to do that, if you want us to get in a big circle and throw a ball, make sure you put that in your survey, and I'll bring an inflatable ball. But
yes, do let us know if the inflatable ball is a
now,
good idea.
When I get them in Calc 1, they're going to come to the first session and say, where's the inflatable ball?
Oh, look, I still want Emily's tennis ball idea to kick off, because that was such a cool session idea.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys remember that from her training, but that was so cool. And I have yet to see her do it in a session, so I want to see it.
Okay, so I think that's all. We have to let the busy Eesha go back to her very busy life.
I believe her mother was visiting tonight. Wasn't that what was happening, or is that something?
Yes, actually, they just got here. Believe it or not, so this is good timing.
So this is good timing for us to let you go. Eesha, thank you so much for making the time to come here.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. It really has. I've had so much fun, and I hope the students enjoyed it too. And good luck with your exams, everyone. All going to be fine.
I was actually going to say on that note, I don't wish anyone luck anymore, because as I've been telling my students, we all hated probability. Luck is just probability. So no probability. I'm not wishing probability on anyone. Everyone hates probability. So no luck. No luck.
That's good.
You guys have got this.
So yeah, thanks again to Eesha. Thanks again, Daniel, for being here with me and listening to me talk shit for another hour and a half. Our next session or our next PASSCast episode will likely be in the break, so we'll run our, I guess, mid-season, no, inter-season, intro, I don't know, something like that.
We'll come up with a fun name for it.
Yeah, we'll come up with a name, and that'll be in between, and that'll be a little less, I guess, pass related and more focused on different areas of pass and pass leading rather than the actual sessions. So that's all from us. Thank you again, Eesha. We loved having you on as always. We can't wait till the next one.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.